Hello, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us while we give an overview of the Higher Education Collective Bargaining Agreement for the 2023-2025 bargaining cycle. Most items in this video are already in the contract from prior bargaining cycles. However, it is important to note that some items may be changing when the new contract goes into effect on July 1st, 2023. When we're talking about one of those topics, we'll prompt you by saying, in the upcoming 2023 contract, etc. And you'll also see a flashing message in the upper right corner of the screen to signify that this language, it's not really in effect until July 1st, 2023. If you'd like to follow along and explore the contract while we go through some of the articles, you can find a copy of any current or upcoming contracts at wpea.org/contracts. I'll be listing the affected articles after the title of each slide, so let's jump right into it. Employees are appointed as either regular or cyclic, and their position is designated as one of 4 position types. Now, most positions are permanent positions. However, it is important to understand the other types, since a lot of permanent employees may be offered one of these other position types throughout their employment. When a permanent employee accepts one of these other position types, then they still retain their reversion rights to their previous position, meaning they can always return to that original permanent position that they're entitled to. Project positions are used when funding is time limited. This is often seen with grant funds or any other one-time funds. These positions have a set end time, but depending on the funding amount, they can be created for literally any length of time, even like multiple years. So if the funding source does change and become recurring, these types of positions can also be transformed into permanent positions. In training positions, follow a training program that is created by the employer. These positions have one or more trial service periods of any reasonable length, reasonable being the operative word here, which the employee would need to complete. Once the entire training program has been completed, this type of position is automatically transformed into a permanent position. Non-permanent positions are the last position type, and they can only be used for just a few reasons, and they're also limited in duration to 18 months. Like project positions, these positions can be transformed into permanent positions as well. But it's important to remember the limited number of reasons for when this type of position is appropriate, because these types of positions realistically should be pretty rare. A non-permanent position may be used due to an absence of a permanent employee. Now, this occurs when the permanent employee is, say, on extended leave, or out sick for a prolonged period, or they're otherwise unable to work the position for a limited duration. This is juxtaposed to if there is no permanent employee assigned to the position, then the position is vacant, which is not equivalent to an absence of an employee. This position type may also be used during a workload peak. However, if this workload peak is repetitive each year, then the employer may want to explore a cyclic appointment instead. This position type may also be used while recruitment is being conducted. So once the position becomes vacant, this position type may not be used until the recruitment process has begun. Now, in the upcoming 2023 contract, a 4th reason will be added. This 4th reason being when the nature of the work is sporadic and does not fit a particular pattern. I want you to be a little wary of this use case, though, as most work will have an identifiable pattern. Most employees will be overtime eligible. This means that you're paid at time and a half for any hours worked beyond 40 hours in a single week, and any hours worked outside of the regular hours listed in your position description. Both of those count as overtime. Overtime exempt employees, on the other hand, are only compensated at time and a half if their working hours are deemed excessive. Now, traditionally, this conversation of does it qualify as being excessive, that conversation begins if the employee is usually working regularly more than 45 hours per week. The largest difference between overtime exempt and overtime eligible employees is that overtime exempt employees are not compensated at time and a half if they work outside of their regular working hours listed in their position description. To become overtime exempt, you must meet a minimum salary threshold that is based on a multiplication of minimum wage as listed in a specific WAC, that being WAC 296-128-545. The multiplier of this threshold will continue to raise until 2028. And even after that, the threshold is still tied to minimum wage, which may increase further. In 2023, this threshold is 2 times the current minimum wage, or about $31.48 per hour. In addition to the salary threshold, though, your job duties must also align with one of 5 exemptions that are listed by the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLESA, as we call it. If you are designated as an overtime exempt, please reach out to your steward team for any additional information, as these positions should be very rare, as most positions do not meet the strict standards outlined by FLESA. Links to the salary threshold WAC law and the FLESA standards are both included in this slide deck. Your base pay is related to your classification pay range and your current step in the pay range. A list of all classifications is going to be linked at the bottom of this slide. You will advance 2 steps after your first 6 months and an additional 2 steps annually thereafter. For perspective, it takes 6 years to traverse from step A to step L. Step M is the current maximum, and you will advance to step M 6 years after you reach step L. So that is 12 years to run through the entire step range. There are also a few types of additional pay that you may be entitled to. If you work during the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 a.m., you are entitled to a shift premium. This premium pay entitles you to an additional $1 an hour, or $174 per month. In the upcoming 2023 contract, though, this rate will increase to $2.50 per hour, or $435 per month. If you are asked to be on standby, this means that you are not at the work site, nor are you working, but you are ready to be called in at any time. While you are on standby status, you are paid at 7% your regular hourly rate. Standby time is also not counted when calculating overtime. If you are not in standby status, you may still receive a callback. A callback occurs when an employee not in standby status is asked to return to work outside their normal working hours after they have already left the institution for the day. If you receive a callback, you are entitled to 3 hours of pay in addition to your regular pay. These 3 additional hours do not count towards overtime calculation either, though. Performance evaluations must use the standardized form for Performance and Development Plan, or PDP, which was developed by the Washington State Office of Financial Management, or OFM acronyms. The evaluations weigh your performance against the expectations that are written in your position description. These evaluations must be performed during any probationary, trial service, or transitionary period. They also must be performed annually by your supervisor. And the supervisor must also review your evaluation with you so that you can ask questions and understand the feedback that they've written. I want to highlight this. Employees should not be asked to fill out their own PDP, but employees are entitled to add additional comments on the contents of the PDP. If they either say do not agree with what is written, or if they feel that additional information is necessary, that comment area, that's where you would put that. And those comments are stored alongside the PDP. Links to the standard PDP form on OFM's site are also linked on this slide deck. Now, what if, say, your job duties have shifted either all at once or slowly over a few years, and you're now performing work that goes way beyond the scope of your current classification? This scenario is why the position review process exists. A position review can be initiated by either the employee or the employer. When a position review is filed, HR must decide on the appropriate classification within 60 days. There is an appeal process, also detailed in this article, which must be initiated within 30 days of the decision, but regardless of the total timeline, the effect of the reallocation is calculated based on the initial filing date of the request. Due to how complex these reviews can be, it's recommended that you work with your supervisor and a union steward prior to filing with HR. And I just want to reiterate one thing that I said earlier. The employee can submit a position review if they feel like they've been doing advanced duties for more than 6 months. Employees working more than 5 consecutive hours will be allowed an unpaid meal period of at least 30 minutes, scheduled as close to the middle of the shift as possible. If the meal period cannot be completed due to operational necessity, the employee will be compensated for the actual number of minutes worked. Employees working more than 3 hours longer than a normal workday will be allowed an additional unpaid meal period. Rest periods of 15 minutes will be allowed around the 2-hour mark for each 4-hour work period. Rest periods may not be used for late arrival or early departure from work, and rest and meal periods cannot be combined. Full-time and part-time employees will be credited with vacation leave on a monthly basis, with the accrual rate depending on years of service. Vacation requests will be approved or denied within 10 days of the request, and if denied, a reason will be provided in writing. Employees may also use vacation leave for family care, military family leave, domestic violence leave, sick leave purposes, and emergency child care. Full-time employees who are in pay status for at least 80 non-overtime hours per month will accrue 8 hours of sick leave per month. Sick leave can be used for personal illness, medical appointments, and for care of family members, among a bunch of other things. Sick leave accruals from the previous month will be available for employee use at the start of next month. If an employee becomes ill while on vacation, they may request to use sick leave and have the equivalent amount of vacation leave restored. But the employer may require a written medical certificate for any sick leave absence if they ever suspect an abuse of sick leave. Employees may take 2 paid personal leave days per fiscal year, which cannot be carried over to future years. In the upcoming 2023 contract, this will increase to 3 personal days. Employees benefit from 11 paid holidays and 1 personal holiday, which is also paid. Holiday pay is equivalent to the pay an employee would receive during the work shift which lands on the holiday. If an employee works on the holiday, then they are paid at an overtime rate in addition to their regular holiday pay. This becomes a shift which pays 2.5 times the regular rate. Employees scheduled and not required to work due to a campus closure will have no loss in pay for a late start, early closure, and the first full day of total suspended operations. If total suspended operations extends beyond a single full day, then employees may use any type of paid or unpaid leave or make up lost time through an employee-requested schedule change. At the supervisor's discretion and approval, affected employees may be offered the option to work remotely or reassigned to a similar position at a location within a reasonable commute distance from the non-operational location to avoid needing to use leave. Employees required to work during late starts, early closures, and total suspended operations will be paid their regular rate and an additional 8 hours of pay, which is not counted for calculating overtime. Employees cannot be monitored through any electronic equipment in the workplace without prior notice from the employer. To clarify, electronic monitoring refers to data collected from employer-controlled equipment to determine an employee's whereabouts or activities. However, in cases where the employer has reasonable grounds to suspect misconduct, they may use electronic monitoring without prior notice as part of a specific investigation. This requires a written investigation plan that outlines the reason, the duration, and scope of the monitoring, and the monitoring must be tailored to meet the purpose of the investigation. And the college president must also approve this monitoring. In general, you shouldn't be watched by any electronic device unless it is part of one of these very high-level investigations. LMCC, or the Labor Management Communication Committee, is a monthly meeting which aims to promote a cooperative relationship between the employer and the union. The committee consists of up to 4 representatives from each party in addition to the union representative, and the time is used for discussion purposes only. The committees cannot conduct negotiations, they cannot bargain collectively, and they also cannot modify any provision of the agreement during these meetings. Those actions are carried out during our collective bargaining cycle every 2 years, which we're going to be talking about shortly. These meetings are contractually required, and they are generally the fastest way to ensure that a large concern is brought forth to management through a scheduled meeting. Any member can attend these meetings. Just check with the steward team if you'd like to attend, and that way we can ensure that we are still staying under our maximum participation limit. We can also invite a subject matter expert to participate in discussions around a single topic, and they will not count towards our maximum participant account. Employees have the right to have a union representative at an investigatory interview if they reasonably believe discipline could result. Employers cannot discipline a permanent employee without just cause, and disciplinary actions may include oral and written reprimands. They can also include reductions in pay, suspensions, demotions, or even termination from employment. Off-duty activities of an employee may be grounds for disciplinary action if they are a conflict of interest, or if they're detrimental to work performance, or otherwise would constitute just cause. Any written reprimands may be removed from an employee's personnel file after 3 years if there has been no subsequent discipline, and any records of disciplinary actions may be removed after 5 years if requested by the employee. So if you have things that are older than 5 years, you have to request it, and then it'll go away. It's important to remember that probationary employees are not subject to this article until they finish their probationary period and become a permanent employee. The grievance procedure is used when we believe that the employer has violated the collective bargaining agreement. The procedure consists of 4 steps, where we try to discuss and resolve the issue at varying levels. If the employer and the union both cannot agree on a resolution at the current step, the grievance is escalated to the next step. Now, if a grievance ever does reach step 4, there is a monetary cost to filing for arbitration, which the union will cover, and the decision from the arbitrator affects all institutions which fall under the same contract. In this way, arbitration decisions guide how we can enforce the more nuanced language inside of our contract, and these decisions can also have a significant impact on other colleges, even if they don't have an active grievance for the same issue. The grievance procedure is very specific about timelines. The most important deadline to remember is that you have 30 days to file a grievance from the time that you become aware of the occurrence. Your steward and union representative will meet with you and discuss the other timelines as the grievance moves along. The grievance procedure highlights why it is always vital to keep records. Document incidents, dates, times, witnesses, and any evidence that you may have to support your claim. If something is only spoken verbally, ask that it be emailed to you, as this will give you a record of what was said. If you suspect that the contract has been violated, it is vitally important that you contact the stewards immediately. Even if you are unsure if the circumstance qualifies as a violation, we still recommend that you contact us as soon as possible. This will give the steward team ample time to collect information and discuss the situation with you while keeping to the 30-day filing deadline. Collective bargaining is a process where representatives from our employee group and the employer all come together to negotiate and establish the terms of our collective bargaining agreement. By participating in collective bargaining, you can shape our work environment and secure favorable terms that reflect our needs and priorities. Your involvement ensures that your voice is heard and your interests are represented during the negotiation process. It's a chance to make a difference and contribute to the decisions that impact our daily lives at the college. Your active engagement in the bargaining process is essential. By staying informed, providing feedback, and participating in discussions, you help us to establish a strong and unified front. The more we can come together and work collaboratively, the stronger our position becomes when negotiating with the employer. We encourage all members to actively participate in the bargaining process, and here are a few ways that you can participate. You get to vote for your representative, so we encourage you to take part in that democratic process by electing a representative who will effectively voice your concerns and advocate for your rights during negotiations. Make sure to learn about the candidates and their positions to make an informed decision. You can attend our membership meetings to stay informed about the progress of bargaining. These meetings provide updates, explain key issues being negotiated, and they also give you an opportunity to ask questions and share your concerns. You can engage with your representative by communicating your thoughts, priorities, concerns, all that stuff, so that they can accurately represent your interests. This can be done through surveys, feedback sessions. You can even reach out directly to your representative. They're there to advocate for you, and your input helps them to better understand the needs of the collective. You can support your bargaining representative by participating in activities and initiatives organized by the union. These can include rallies, petitions, and even informational campaigns to raise awareness of the importance of fair working conditions and the bargaining process itself. Collective action is always stronger when we stand together. So engage in conversations with your colleagues, discuss common concerns, and encourage them to actively participate in the bargaining process. Together, we can demonstrate solidarity and send a powerful message to the employer about the importance of fair and favorable working conditions. In conclusion, the Higher Education Collective Bargaining Agreement is a vital document that governs our work environment and ensures fair and favorable conditions for all. Throughout this presentation, we've explored key aspects such as appointment and position types, compensation, evaluations, leave policies, labor management communication, disciplinary procedures, grievance processes, and the importance of collective bargaining. By actively participating in the bargaining process, we can shape our work environment and secure favorable terms that meet our needs and priorities. Our engagement, feedback, and involvement strengthen our position during negotiations and contribute to a unified front. Together, we advocate for fair working conditions and uphold the principles of collective bargaining. So, thanks for your attention and commitment to our collective well-being. I hope that we can continue to work together, support your representative, and strive for a work environment that empowers and respects each member.